It's Josh Foster here at EXIT Realty Southern, and today I am with Miss Alisha Ashby with Goosehead Insurance, and we're going to talk about all things insurance because insurance tends to be some very important things that are happening in our marketplace right now. So a little bit about Alisha. Alisha is with Goosehead Insurance. She has over 17 years of insurance experience serving South Louisiana, the Gulf Coast, and Southwest Louisiana right here at home. And in July of this year, 2022, she just opened her own Goosehead agency. So Alisha, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
So Alisha, tell us, what do you see the current state of the homeowners market right now in Louisiana?
Well, Josh, as you well know, we've had 4 major hurricanes in the last 3 years here in Louisiana. This has many companies rethinking their ability to write coverage in our state. Okay. Louisiana represented about $75 billion in losses to those companies. And they just took a loss in Florida just as large. So the risk in Louisiana alone has already caused a handful of companies to go insolvent, while some of the remaining companies have paused writing new business or completely pulled out of the state altogether. We're seeing this right now with UPC. So I don't know if you're familiar with UPC, the news just came out that they will be issuing non-renewal letters to their customers in Louisiana starting with the first of the year. So again, we're going to be looking for customers' coverages. The environment is limiting homeowners coverage availability for our area. And on top of a struggling economy and inflation and the rising cost of reconstruction for homes has created this hard market. Many consumers who are shopping right now for homeowners insurance or looking at their renewals that they're getting have seen a significant increase in the amount of coverage that it requires to make sure their home is insured properly. That on top of these higher rates have created this hard market that we have. You know, in hard markets, a carrier is going to double down on their guidelines and restrictions to ensure their financial stability in the event that we have another major catastrophe happen in our area or across the Gulf Coast. We've had the benefit of a soft market for many years. A lot of people don't remember because our home buyers are a little bit young right now, that we did go through something similarly challenging after Rita and Katrina. Nothing to this extent, but we had the same challenges for a short time after that as well.
Yeah, I know that we're seeing the way we do things in the real estate industry change a lot. Where used to you would bind your insurance and get your insurance quotes, you know, toward the end of the loan process right before closing, but we're seeing having to go out and get quotes ahead of time, usually, you know, before making an offer and things like that. But where do you see things going, you know, in the next year or two in the homeowners market?
Well, the good news is it's going to get better. It's just going to take some time. There is hope. We won't always have these limited carrier options and higher premiums. Personally, Goosehead works very hard every day to find us some new carriers that might be available or willing to write coverage for our area. Same thing with our insurance commissioner. He's out there every day looking for these new carriers for us, along with every other independent agent out there who just wants to bring more options. You know, it's just going to take time. Sure. These things, when we find these new companies, there's filings, there's approval processes that they must go through. You know, those things are in place to protect our consumers, to make sure that we are bringing strong carriers to the market. Yeah. And that takes time to get that taken care of. Yeah. You know, we also passed some legislation in the last session here in the state to beef up the requirements for these companies coming in, hopefully ensuring that we have more viable companies doing business for us, and we won't end up in the same situation that we saw play out in June and July, where we saw 6 companies go insolvent. Exactly. So it's not going to be like this forever. It's just going to take some time to move through these things and these challenges and find these carriers who are willing to open back up, start taking some new business. We have seen some things change already. They're slow, but they're starting to happen. Hopefully, Goosehead is going to have some good news coming in the first quarter of 2023. We're hoping that we'll be able to introduce a couple of new carriers. help take on some of these risks and keep some of these customers out of the Louisiana citizens market.
So Alisha, what are some things that a seller could do right now to help a home buyer get a better premium? Right now, we know insurance is a huge factor in the buyer's monthly note because of the premium. What are some tips, or are there any tips you could give to a seller to help the buyer get a better rate?
Yes. So be forthcoming with information. When your realtor asks you to fill out your disclosure, be as complete and thorough as you can. A lot of things that insurance companies are looking for to not only give a better rate, but qualify a risk is the age of the roof, age of the water heater, electrical updates, plumbing updates, especially if your home is over 15 years old. A lot of these companies are asking about this information. The average roof age in Louisiana is somewhere between 7 to 9 years. And that's kind of a sweet spot for us, that 5 years or less or under 10 years. A lot of companies are giving a more favorable rate for that, and if it's older than that, some companies are actually asking for the roof to be updated. We had some major storms. If you didn't get a roof in the year or two leading up to that, you probably may have had some damage that, even if it wasn't significant, there's, some life to the roof that was taken away. And so you may have a buyer ask you to have a roof evaluation or have a roof taken care of or replaced if it's older than 10 years old. Be prepared to make sure your home is in the best condition possible. Perfect. To help your buyer secure the best possible rate for that property, especially older homes.
So if someone experienced significant damage in the Hurricane Laura, Hurricane Delta in our area, and they did a complete rebuild, build back, I know you've gone through this personally, where you've really pretty much made a brand new house out of the one you had. You're saying that the insurance agent would love more information rather than less information regarding what all was done to that property.
Absolutely.
The better it was built back, the better the possible rate could be. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. Because a home that's had all these updates taken care of are less likely to have that water heater explode and cause a huge water loss, or the AC unit drain pan overflow in your attic. Those are types of things that we see when those items get older. So it helps keep those type of preventable losses down, and that you are truly having a policy for those disastrous situations.
Perfect. So Alisha, there are some things that are coming down. This isn't a homeowner's insurance question, but it is an important thing in the real estate market. That's regarding flood insurance. So, FEMA last year introduced risk rating 2.0. And honestly, I think between insurance agents and realtors and everyone that is in that space, we're still trying to figure out the ins and outs of that new system and the new rating system and how it's done. My question is we're starting to hear a lot of talk about private flood insurance. Can you tell us what's the difference between a national flood insurance policy and the private flood insurance market? What are those differences?
Okay. Well, the National Flood Insurance Program is obviously a federally backed program. And they have a very stringent set of, this is what you can offer, this is what you can do, this is the coverage that's available. With private flood insurance that's through a private company. So it's a company that has decided that they are willing to take the risk and write flood insurance, and they can offer additional coverages that may not be available through the National Flood Insurance Program, such as replacement cost on your contents, additional living expenses. That's a huge gap in the National Flood Insurance Program policy, is there's no additional living expenses. So if you have a flood loss and you have to move out of your home while it's being repaired, that's money coming out of your pocket. There's nowhere to go for that. Unless FEMA's involved because it's a natural disaster that they've stepped in and helped with. But with a private policy, that can be provided for you without having to reach out for that extra help. So that can be a positive side of private flood insurance. If you've never flooded and you are in a higher risk flood zone, sometimes a private flood insurance policy may offer you a better rate. Can't say it's going to always happen that way, but sometimes it can happen that way. So it's good to look at both. And at Goosehead, we have multiple options, not just the NFIP flood coverage. We actually work with several private carriers as well. And we check all of those. When we get a call from either a real estate agent or a loan officer or the consumer themselves looking for these products, we run all of them and we offer the best options.
So, and I'm seeing some emails going back and forth in the industry right now that FHA is starting to allow private flood insurance if it meets certain criteria. Have you heard that yet?
Yes, so we've gotten that communication as well, starting December 21st, 23rd.
I believe it's in that range.
Yeah.
Yes.
So starting then, FHA has to accept private flood insurance. So before this, if you had an FHA mortgage, you had to use the NFIP. You could not consider a private carrier. And a private carrier is not for everybody, but it gives us that option now instead of going, oh, you have an FHA, we have to do this.
And I know, you know, with sellers and homeowners or buyers that purchase homes that are in flood zone X, which are technically low risk, flood insurance is not required in those zones, but they still want that added protection in case of a flash flood or whatever. The private insurance market, flood insurance market, seems to be a better, you know, on the average, normally a better rate for them. Would you agree?
Again, not always. So it just depends. You know, flood 2.0 rating. Personally, I don't like it because it's not good things for my community. We are a higher risk area, even in our X zones are those low to moderate risk zones. Those are X, B, and C. So across the board, we're all paying higher flood rates, no matter what flood zone you're in. So I don't like it because it wasn't a good thing for my community. I'm sure people farther north who don't have those risks are thrilled to see lower rates, but that's not what's happening for us.
Sure.
Some cases, again, X zone flood, private flood can be less expensive. But the important takeaway is, even if it's close to the same and you're paying more, typically we can give you more coverage or better quality coverage on certain things than what you can get from the NFIP.
Understood.
Like I said, those replacement costs on contents with NFIP, you have no choice. It's always actual cash value for your contents. What that means to you is if you have a 10-year-old couch and you have a flood loss, they're going to deduct 10 years of value from your couch. With replacement costs, oh, you have a couch, we need to replace a couch. They're going to give you the money to replace it at today's cost with like, kind, and quality. So that's the nice thing about private flood that's not available in the National Flood Insurance Program.
Thank you so much for clearing that up. So one last question. What's the process of getting an insurance quote with you? You know, tell us, how do we reach you? How long does it take to, you know, for you to get a quote back to us? So how do people reach you if they have insurance questions?
So you can reach me a couple of different ways. My office number is 337-279-1634. You can shoot me an email, alisha.ashby@goosehead.com, spelled ALISHA.ASHBY @goosehead, spelled the way it sounds.com. I am located at 3430 Common Street here in Lake Charles. I do move around within the community a lot. So if you want to stop in, always give me a call first. I may be out to lunch with a client or with a partner that I work with within the community. So always reach out to me before you stop in, but you can find me locally as well in my office. And as far as getting a quote, a lot of times I like to take care of things in one call. That's kind of the method that we go for here at Goosehead. I want to have a conversation with you, talk to you about what's important to you and your needs and your insurance. And as we're going through those conversations and I'm collecting information, I'll get you that quote while we're on the phone. And if everything looks good, I can get it wrapped up and shoot it over to your lender or your mortgage company if you're replacing a current policy, usually within the hour. Now, some areas that are a little bit more challenging once we start talking about Cameron Parish, are getting close to the coast, or you're sitting on the water here in Calcasieu Parish. Those do tend to take me a little bit longer. I like to do my research, but again, same day I'm going to get back with you. We're going to talk about that and see where you want to go.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, Alicia, thank you so much for your time and always bringing so much great information about insurance. And we'll talk to you next time. Thanks so
Okay.
much. Take care.
You too. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me.